The opinions expressed in this program are not those of CISA 7 or Time Warner Cable.
I'd like to call a special board meeting to order. We have 6 of 7 board members here. Andrew is excused for the first part of the meeting, but he will be coming. He had to work, something come up at work. So at this point, I would entertain the first motion for the special board meeting.
I move that the resignations as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Dorf.
Aye.
Jansch.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye. Carried 6-0.
I move that the employment of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
May I just make a comment? We have one of the staff
Do you have a
members.
microphone, Jean?
Pardon?
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'd just like to make a comment that we have one of our staff members who we are recommending for hire, who's actually suddenly withdrawn his desire to work for us. So what we'll do is next week we will have when you vote on the consent agenda, we'll have his name as a resignation. I just want to point that out. And let's see, I don't have the list, his name right here, but I can get it to you. It's one of the teachers.
Okay. Any questions? Sandy?
Maloney.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye.
Dorf.
Aye.
Jansch.
Aye.
McCoy. Aye. Wagner.
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
I move that the employment of Kate Dolan as elementary principal, 11 months at Jefferson Elementary School, effective August 1st, 2017, as presented, be approved.
Sandy?
McCoy. Aye. Wagner.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
Jansch.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye.
Dorf.
Aye.
Carried 6-0. I know
Kate is here.
Somewhere. There she is. Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome. Congratulations. Next motion.
I move that the transfers of staff as presented be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Jansch.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
Dorf.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye.
McCoy.
Aye. Carried 6-0.
And I move that the transfer of Margaret Fisher, elementary associate principal, 11 months at Sullivan, to elementary principal, 12 months at Sullivan, effective July 11th, 2017, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Warren. Aye. McCoy. Aye. Jansch.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Dorf.
Aye.
Carried 6-0. And I know Peggy's in the.
AKA Peggy. And that
All right,
concludes
I
my
would
motions.
entertain a motion for adjournment of the special board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll reconvene again at 5:30. I'd like to call the regular board meeting to order. This is our work session. As I've already mentioned, 6 of 7 board members are present tonight. Andrew will be joining us a little bit later. Also at the table, I'm joined to my left by Dr. Michelle Langenfeld, our superintendent. I think we'll be joined by our Intercity Student Council President, Grace Sinclair. She's usually at these meetings. And then Sandy Heller, our board secretary, and members of the superintendent's cabinet around the table. As most everyone knows, our district publicly responded to Ms. Westcott's concerns regarding Washington Middle School on both June 27th with a statement from Dr. Langenfeld, and then again on June 28th with the press conference. Prior to our open forum tonight, we would like to again address the situation. Joining us this time are Washington Middle School Principal Dennis Christensen and Executive Director of Secondary Education Tom Ho. They were both unavailable during the last 2 weeks. They had a work commitment out of town and also some personal commitments out of town. Before I ask them to come forward to provide further information about the 2016-17 school year at Washington, as well as their plans for the 2017-18 school year, I wish to make a brief statement. The Board of Education is committed to student and staff safety. As parents ourselves of Green Bay Area Public School current and former students, we understand how important it is that our students, families, and staff feel their schools are safe places. We are confident that the majority of our staff and students do feel safe in their schools. Assuring safe and secure learning environments for our students and staff all across our district is challenging work, as the needs of our students are increasing, something that is being experienced all across the country. We are very grateful to our community for approving the 2 referendum questions in April. This has provided us through the operational referendum with resources that we can provide to our schools as needed to give more support. The capital referendum money also included money for community spaces to help support our students and families with community services. In addition, many from our community have continued to come forward to offer their support of our work to eliminate barriers to student success. Our board has been an active part of the conversations about Washington for the past year and has received regular updates about the proposed plans for meeting the current challenges. Our administration and staff have been working diligently to improve the learning environment at Washington Middle School all year. We all view this as very important work. To that end, we invested significant resources into Washington at the beginning of the 2016-17 school year and throughout the year as needed. We were receiving reports from teachers that there had been improvement over the last month of school, but our work is clearly not done. The board has approved more resources for Washington for the upcoming school year. As an example, in May, we approved additional administrative support to assist with behavior concerns and parent engagement. Our board will continue to receive regular updates throughout next year and will ensure that the public is aware of the progress at Washington Middle School. Washington Middle School has been the focus these past 2 weeks, but I want to assure our community, families, and staff that we will continue our work to provide safe and secure school environments in all of our schools. We are so sorry that we have had some teachers experiencing great stress in their workplace. We have plans in place for next year and will continue to work hard for many years to come to ensure that this is not their experiences moving forward. At this time, I would like to ask Dennis and Tom to come to the table, and I think Tom is going to start his remarks first.
Good evening. My name is Tom Ho, and I'm the Executive Director of Secondary Schools for the Green Bay Area Public School District. This position was created, and I was hired in 2015 with the understanding of Superintendent Dr. Michelle Langenfeld and the Green Bay Area Public School District Board of Education that our secondary schools needed additional support. My primary role is to work with secondary principals to provide leadership and management support and promote continuous school improvement. I've had the opportunity to work closely with the building leaders, staff, and students at all of our secondary schools, but especially Washington Middle School. Thank you, Dr. Warren, for this opportunity to provide the board and the public with greater information on the important work we've been doing at Washington Middle School. First, I want to be clear, and I know that some folks from the school are here today, that in no means do I intend to dispute any of your personal experiences or the personal emotions that you felt, that you shared or will share. As a former middle school teacher, high school associate principal, middle school principal, and now executive director, I've had the opportunity to work with students in many different settings in different school districts. The behaviors students exhibit in a large district like Green Bay are not unlike what I've witnessed in small rural districts as a middle school principal or in a suburban district as a high school associate principal. In some schools in Green Bay, however, we do see a high frequency of behaviors. maybe even more than you might see in smaller districts. During the 16-17 school year, we added many layers of additional support to help address that frequency of difficult student behaviors displayed at Washington Middle School and help make a positive impact on the school culture. The first step in this change process was hiring Principal Mr. Dennis Christensen. Mr. Christensen joined us from Washington Park High School in Racine, where he was a veteran high school principal familiar with large school districts. Mr. Christensen immediately engaged his leadership team and developed a success plan that focused their attention on student engagement and building quality teacher-student relationships. Additional district resources were allocated to maintain an administrative intern, and we had the opportunity to hire Ms. Beth Jakowski from the Chicago Public School District to provide additional administrative support. Mr. Christensen met with staff over the summer to gain insight and listen to feedback about Washington in order to develop professional development opportunities and help direct district resources that support students in behavior and academics. In the fall of 2016, I helped organize a team of district office staff representing the departments of English language learners, special education, student services, equity, technology, and teaching and learning. Our goal was to support Washington Middle School. We observed classes, we met with staff, and provided input to the administrative team. I first learned of the then unidentified individuals concerned in the late evening on Sunday, May 7th, 2017, and as of 7 a.m. the next morning, Monday, May 8th, I and several additional district office personnel and school board members were at Washington Middle School to help understand and respond to the concerns. I continued to work exclusively at Washington Middle School every day for the remainder of the school year. Many of the concerns identified in the May 7th, 2017 anonymous letter had already been addressed by Washington Middle School administration and were brought to my attention. Some of these events did occur over the course of the school year, not just in those previous few weeks. As additional or new concerns arose, they were addressed on a case-by-case basis, and when the number of concerns regarding disrespectful student behavior grew, the following additional action steps were taken. Additional district office administrator support. There were at least 2 district office administrators at Washington Middle School each day for the remainder of the school year. This support included hallway and cafe supervision, student discipline, classroom observations, parent contacts, and etc. Additional monitor hours. The feedback we received from staff was that in the afternoons there was an increased need for hallway supervision and not enough people to cover. So we increased our monitor hours in the afternoon. At-risk teacher specialist support. We provided additional at-risk teacher support to help with supervision in the cafeteria, to make student contacts, parent contacts, and support the main office during the lunch periods. This was also for the remainder of the year. Review the school success plan. The building leadership team, administrative team, and district office support team re-examined the school success plan to check for alignment with the district mission and vision. Voluntary staff meetings. Information was collected from staff. This information was gathered, read, and reflected upon by the administrative team and the district office support team. Follow-up and communication to staff. Mr. Christensen responded to the staff at WMS following those voluntary meetings. His message was to reinforce the content of the comments from the staff. He also reinforced the commitments teachers made to the school's vision. The cafeteria. We had simple reminders about best practice by adults. This was revisited. This was also part of a long-range cafeteria structure plan. These adult practices were modeled by teachers and administrators from the building and the district office throughout the month and the remainder of the year. Class meetings. Students met with the principal in the auditorium and assistant principals in the classrooms to discuss positive expectations and consequences associated with not meeting those expectations. This reteaching approach is and was essential. Communication to parents. Mr. Christensen messaged parents about the need to finish the race strong, which outlines the positive expectations he has for students and the potential consequences for not meeting those expectations. The foci for the remaining days were getting to school on time, getting to class on time, using appropriate language, and accepting redirection by adults. Words like abuse and assault are very serious and are addressed immediately. We are required by law to address those matters with the police department, and I can assure you those issues that were brought to our attention were addressed. No staff member raised the issue of staff or students being physically, emotionally, or sexually assaulted on a daily basis to me prior to the anonymous letter on May 7th. The information presented by Ms. Westcott to the board on June 5th was not new information for me. This was information that had been provided the previous month in the anonymous letter, and we were already engaged in a number of additional supports to respond to those concerns. The only thing we did not know is who had brought forward the concerns, as that was not provided. Thus, we did not have an opportunity to speak directly to Ms. Westcott to address her personal experiences. Ms. Westcott did not raise the issue of staff students being physically, emotionally, and sexually assaulted on a daily basis to me prior to the June 5th when she identified herself at the board meeting. I care deeply about the staff and the students at Washington Middle School. I had the opportunity to spend an entire month there, working side by side with teachers and students and the administrators. And I can tell you that the number of fist bumps and high fives and other fun middle school things was my experience there. Were there difficult things that we dealt with? Absolutely. Were there students displaying difficult behaviors? Absolutely. But there was also a sense that Washington Middle School was a safe place to be at. I hope that I can continue to work with Washington Middle School staff and students and administration to improve any of the things that we've heard about, and I believe that we have plans in place to help with that. I want to talk a little bit about what plans we have for the 17-18 school year. We plan to have increased parent and community support. Many of that support you saw at the press conference recently. And since then, we've had another group of people come forward and say they want to be part of the solution. We intend to hold parent meetings, neighborhood meetings, and develop new partnerships with community organizations relative to healthcare, after-school programming, service organizations, etc. We plan to continue to develop teachers professionally and staff professionally and provide teacher mentoring support. We're going to provide targeted professional learning for things that are important to Washington Middle School, and we have new teacher mentoring programs coming online in the fall. We have an incredible increase in human resource. We have increased staff, administrators, and teachers. We're hiring a brand new associate principal. That's in addition to the associate principals we currently have. We're hiring an additional full-time school counselor in addition to the school counselors we currently have. We're hiring 3 additional teachers to serve at Mr. Christensen's command to help with classroom instruction, to help with sub-shortages, to help with anything that's needed in the school. We're also increasing that school monitor time to help with hallway supervision and cafe supervision. We are going to commit to best practices at Washington Middle School. We believe the school success plan is the document we use to help guide us in that. We're going to continue to plan engaging activities for students so that they have no choice but to love being in our classrooms and love being in school. We're going to continue to use restorative practices for students that display poor behavior so that we can help them make better decisions in the future. And we're going to continue to hold academic circles in our classrooms to help teachers connect and make good relationships with students. We also intend to have a variety of accountability measures put into place. Those accountability measures are for the purpose of monitoring the work of our administrative staff, of our teaching staff, of our support staff, and all of the different resources we have going into that school to make sure they're doing what they're intended to do. We tend to report out to parents, staff, and students. We intend to report to the superintendent and the Board of Education, and we intend to report to the community. Again, these things are things that we have already thought through, have already put into place, and have plans for the future, and we think that these things will impact Washington Middle School in a positive way and potentially be a model for how we can support all of our secondary schools in the Green Bay Area Public School District. I feel very proud to have this position, and I feel very challenged by this position. Working in public schools is a difficult job. It's one that I take on freely, and I accept the responsibilities that go with it, and I appreciate the time that you've given me today to talk about the things that I've been able to help work on. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Dennis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis Christensen. I proudly joined the Washington Middle School team on July 1, 2016, with the goal of supporting the academic and the social-emotional growth of Washington Middle School students. Looking back, I began this work with earnest by taking 2 key steps. First, I collaboratively joined with the Washington staff in the development of a school success plan focused on increasing the student engagement, improving reading and mathematic outcomes, and relationship building, student to student, student to staff, and staff to staff. It was agreed upon that good instruction and positive relationships are the foundation for academic growth and positive behavior. Embedded within this plan were staff identified and research-proven practices supportive of our goal. As a staff, we agreed that the plan was to be long-term, a sustainable process, and include the necessary professional development provided to staff. The second step I took was to invite all staff to have informal and voluntary 30-minute conversations with me. A significant number of staff took the time out of their summer recess to have a conversation with me, and many of those conversations went well beyond 30 minutes. My greatest takeaways from these conversations was the importance of communication, staff collaboration, support of positive student behavior, and an overwhelming staff passion for Washington Middle School, and that rang out very clear. As a building leader, positive school culture, student and staff safety, and positive student behavior is and always will be a priority for Washington Middle School. Supportive of this, looking back, actions taken over the course of the 2016-17 school year have included, but are not limited to, targeted staff professional development supportive of the school success plan, close reading, academic conversations, academic circles, understanding poverty, communication, Autism 101, and relationship building. The building administrative team, in cooperation with our building school liaison officer, reviewed and addressed building safety issues and student behavioral concerns on a weekly basis. Bi-monthly student service team meetings, supportive of student social emotional programming, and ongoing interventions took place. Building-wide behavioral data at Washington is analyzed on a monthly basis by the Building Universal Leadership Team. Now, this team is comprised of administrators, student services representatives, a parent representative, teachers, and a district-level support team member. When we analyze that data, monthly behavioral data is shared building-wide in conjunction with a monthly all-staff engagement meeting, which focuses on school-wide professional development, supportive of student engagement, and positive behavior. Also, ongoing and targeted student reteaching of classroom and building-wide behavioral expectations and procedures supportive of our PBIS program took place. Students were recognized for academic and attendance, and building-wide behavioral incentives were in place, such as a school student store and the student-faculty basketball game and a spring carnival. We continued implementation of restorative practices and academic circles, building-wide, supportive of continuing that positive relationship building through announcements, videos, and class assemblies. And effort was made to increase parental communication and engage families in building-wide activities. Looking back now, 1 year ago, Washington Middle School has made growth in developing the tools and the strategies necessary, not just for academic growth, but also the social emotional growth. And that has been to the work of both students and to the work of staff to develop those skills as we work with students. We see students improved in attendance. We see students improved in their academics. We have students that won essay contests. We have students who went to state for their musical accomplishments. Washington Middle School staff and Washington Middle School students do amazing things, and they do amazing things on a daily basis. As I stand before you, without question, the work in front of us is large, but it's also imperative on behalf of the students and the families that we serve that it gets done. As a building principal, I stand before you committed to this work that I engaged in with Washington Middle School staff. With the collective commitment of Washington staff, the district, the community, and myself, we will continue to take the necessary action supportive of a safe and ongoing school improvement plan. Thank you for the time to speak with you tonight.
Does the board have any questions at all at this point? Otherwise, Michelle wants. Go ahead.
Christus.
Was there a statement before?
She was going to close, but if you have questions, they're done with
Thank
the
you.
formal
Thank you for being here.
Obviously, having been in education, I certainly appreciate that education is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And I appreciate that things have been going on in a positive direction there in terms of helping staff and students. One thing, if you're not prepared to answer it now, that's fine, but I'm sure you're keeping an account. One thing loud and clear that came across from the letter you mentioned and the staff member who spoke, that many youngsters there just have no respect for adult authority. And my bias is that obviously starts at home. It didn't start when they walked in the school door. And I'm hoping that there, as you work with parents, there's some way you can address working with parents towards the end, not only at school, but that they need to support that respect for authority coming from home. Thank you.
Ed?
Tom, you mentioned something that had come up once before, actually more than once before, regarding accountability measures for the things that are going into place. Could you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Sure. So there's a variety of things that we already have in place that we continue to use. You know, we have a evaluation model that we use for administrators and for teachers to make sure that all the teaching and administrative components are being done and followed through upon and rated appropriately. But we've also talked about going above and beyond that, whether it's using some of our data warehouse capabilities to analyze data more frequently. Part of the thing that we've reflected on is, you know, we have the capabilities in our systems to pull and analyze data on a more regular basis than maybe we've done in the past. And if we can identify what those trigger points are that are critical to understand the life of a school, we think we can more quickly respond when things aren't going the way they should be. So that's one point. The other piece is also about, we've started in the last 2 years surveying staff on an annual basis about their perception of their school. And we've had conversations about perhaps that's something that we can pull out small portions of that perception survey and offer it at a more frequent basis than once a year. Again, with the idea of trying to identify at an earlier stage where some of the pressure points are, where some of the points are that we need to be concerned about, we need to watch over closely. Obviously, there's a question in the perception survey about, you know, how you feel about certain things in your school, and that's an important piece of information that doesn't necessarily come out in our data warehouse that we'd want to be able to identify somehow.
Thank you.
Michelle?
I want to close by acknowledging once again that the safety of staff and students is our highest priority. And I have to, once again, I see some staff members from Washington as well and our community. While we have invested a number of resources and engaged staff in professional development and put into place many interventions to address student behaviors and needs, it simply has not been enough. And for that, I have apologized to the staff, to Ms. Westcott. We are very sorry, and we can do better, and that's what we're working on, so thank you. As we work to improve academic achievement and student engagement to move our district in a positive trajectory, we must never forget that this is our most basic responsibility. I echo what Mr. Ho and Mr. Christensen have shared. Yes, we put a lot of additional resources and supports into place, deployed them in the fall, throughout the school year, many more immediately after receiving the letter that was sent on May 7th. We've had listening sessions with staff in May and June, but we've also had a lot of community conversations. And I think our awareness and our opportunity to grow and change as a result of those conversations is very critical as we move forward. The lesson, the painful lesson that I've come to learn is how important it is to understand the culture and climate in each and every building in which our students are being served and our staff is working. Because in doing so, our data will tell us, and our leadership and our board, more rapidly what actions we need to take. Therefore, as Mr. Ho spoke, we will be implementing checkpoints along the way to identify the culture and climate in each of our schools instead of waiting until the end of the school year. And this is just one of the many plans that we have in place to move our district forward beginning in the fall. As you've also heard from Mr. Ho and Principal Christensen, a great deal of effort has really gone in to support the needs of students, staff, and families served. The solutions, however, that we have implemented have truly not been enough. Successful solutions can and will come when people work collectively together to identify the greatest needs and problems of a school and implement data-driven and measured action steps and strategies to solve the problems. Schools simply cannot address the issues alone. To ensure the safety and the well-being for all students, families, and staff, we have collectively worked with a lot of folks in our community We've worked with our police chief in the past and the mayor, heads of higher ed, community leaders, the medical community, the business community, our nonprofits, Casa Alba, local elected officials, all in an effort to improve safety, health, and well-being of our students and families. But as noted, and this clear awakening for us and awareness is it's not been enough, and there is significantly much more work to do. In the last few years, the Board of Education and staff have worked together to add numerous programs, supports, and services to meet the growing needs of our students and staff. Dr. Rosa Minoka Hill is a school that is a prime example to meet the needs of students who have great and high needs. The Academy at East High School addresses the needs of those high school students who come to us with few credits, and we help them graduate. We are proud to say we are engaging in some pretty significant mental health partnerships that will help improve all the well-being of our students. Non-crisis intervention, nonviolent crisis intervention training, trauma-informed care training, culturally responsive training, multi-level systems of support, additions of interventionists, on-site special education program support personnel, community engagement coordinators, family engagement coordinators, and school support teams are just some more recent additions. Our proposed plan as we move forward for Washington and for other schools in the future, as Board President Warren shared, the referendum sought resources to provide spaces for community services to support our students in our schools. And this is not a new conversation. Dr. Warren and I have had multiple conversations with community partners, Bay Area Community Council, the Greater Green Bay Community Foundation, the United Way, Achieve Brown County, where we've talked about the needs of our students and staff. We've expressed our desire to create community schools where collectively goals will be set, resources will be provided, and supports needed to meet the individual and unique needs found in each and every school. We look forward to sharing more information about how we will move forward with the community school concept in the near future. Once again, to all of you, I again pledge our commitment to ensuring the safety and well-being of all staff, students, and families at Washington and across the district. And we will accomplish this by working collectively together, staff, students, parents, administration, community partners from business and nonprofits, as well as neighbors, using data to name the causes of the problems in our schools and data to inform the effectiveness of the solutions being implemented to meet the unique needs in each and every one of our schools. Thank you.
Any comments or any more questions? All right, at this point, we'll open to our public forum, and the board will hear comments from members of the public. This is an opportunity for members of the public to share information with the Board of Education. Prior to starting your comments, please provide your name, address, and any other contact information. As a reminder, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And as I routinely state before our open forums, Wisconsin's open meeting law prohibits the board from discussing matters brought during the public participation period of the meeting agenda that are not noticed on the board's agenda. If your comments raise a subject that does appear on tonight's meeting agenda notice, the board may comment or discuss the subject, including asking you questions regarding your comments. However, no formal action will be taken on your comments, and the board may request a member of the administration to be in contact with you or to follow up on behalf of the board. If you are here to comment about matters that are not on tonight's agenda, someone from administration will contact you on behalf of the board if the board would want any additional or clarifying information from you. So at this point, I have two people that have filled out forms that would like to speak before the board. I'll call them up in the order received. First is Kirsten Westcott.
My name is Kirsten Westcott, and I am here today because I continue to be concerned about the safety at Washington Middle School. I first officially brought these concerns to a school board member's attention via email on May 7th. I then came to speak at your June 5th board meeting. I presented you with a 5-page document that detailed violent, aggressive, obscene, or sexual incidents that had happened in just the 3-week period in May when I started keeping track. And at first, I felt that you had heard me and understood the severity of what I shared with you. Weeks went by. I was hopeful that you were truly addressing the concerns I had raised. I had heard of many positive things that were coming for Washington for the 2017-2018 school year. Many of the things were mentioned by Mr. Hope tonight, or by you, Dr. Langenfeld, and they gave me hope that some action was being taken. But then on June 27th, without my participation at all, the video of me speaking to you went viral online and was picked up by local media. 2 days later, I watched the press conference that you gave in response, and I lost all hope. Dr. Langenfeld, you stated at the press conference that you were not there to, quote, dispel anyone else's truth, and that, quote, there are always 2 sides to every story. And I must respectfully disagree with you. Truth cannot be dispelled, and there are not always 2 sides to a story. My car and 3 others were intentionally vandalized while I was at work by a student who premeditated this criminal damage by attaching thumbtacks to his fingers and using them to scratch my car 12 times. What is the other side to that story? A custodian reported to you, Dr. Langenfeld, that she was called to a classroom to clean up the mess when a male student ejaculated into a bottle and shook it over a female student's head. What is the other side to that story? A student I had never met approached me in the hallway during passing time and said, "I have a gun and I'm going to shoot you. Bang, 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 bang." What is the other side to that story? The media has used the word allegations to describe my statements. The definition of an allegation is a statement made with little or no proof, a statement that is unsupported. All of the incidents I shared with you are things that are documented in the district computer system, which I would imagine many of you have always had access to. You don't need me to tell you. The things I have shared are not allegations. Just because you have not personally witnessed them, the things that happen to us, it does not mean that they are any less real for those of us who live through them. These are our experiences, and they're horrifying. GBPD Lieutenant Brester stated at the press conference that when there are 900 kids in a building, quote, you're going to have a couple bucking the system. We don't have a couple kids bucking the system. We have dozens of kids committing violent and aggressive acts in our school, many of which are crimes. We had more than 100 students in the red zone this year, meaning they had committed more than 6 major offenses, and that was only as of March when I last checked the data. Lieutenant Brester also stated at the press conference that some of the police calls they received were for, quote, simple things like truancy. I assure you, truancy at Washington is not a simple problem. Truancy at Washington often means groups of students who are present in the school but do not physically attend class. This means they are wandering the building, terrorizing classrooms, hiding in the elevator or the basement or the bathrooms, and committing dangerous offenses. When a parent drops their child off at school, they expect them to be supervised. Because of our widespread truancy problem, many children go unsupervised every day at Washington. This leads to many of the other behavior problems we face. I am here today because I still haven't heard answers to the questions I raised on June 5th. We cannot do the same things that you said at the press conference you've been working on for years and still expect a different result this fall. You must make some very tough, very drastic changes that are specifically about safety. And they must be made now if there is any hope for a safe school year ahead. I want to know, what procedures are you going to put in place that will decrease the amount of criminal offenses that happened at Washington? How are you going to stop students from sexually harassing their teachers and classmates? What existing board policies can you agree to enforce to the fullest extent when it comes to expelling students who commit violent offenses in our school? What commitments can you make to our community that you will follow through on with regards to the safety of students and staff at Washington? I have personally received an outpouring of supportive messages from students, parents, fellow teachers, and the public. And we want to hear from you action steps that are addressing safety. Safety, the most basic need that a human has. We want to hear from you action steps addressing safety that you will be taking along with deadlines prior to the start of the upcoming school year so that we as a community can hold you accountable to concrete plans for positive change. For example, Dr. Langenfeld, you said at the press conference that you would be convening a volunteer committee and people in the public could come or call to join that committee. Mr. Magus, you said you would be having opportunities for WMS teachers to come in this summer and help with the plans for addressing the problems they face. It's already July 10th. When are those things going to happen? If you don't take swift and definitive action to implement a concrete safety improvement plan now, the students and staff at Washington will once again have to live through another year in a dangerous school and work environment, and our kids and our teachers deserve better.
Kristen, could I address you, please? I have to share with you that the two-side statement I have regretted, and I apologize to you for that.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that, and it was a conversation I had with a wonderful community member named Ann, and she called me up and we had a very good conversation about safety and the concerns raised, and she said, you don't recognize you're not living there every day. And it was one of those moments where you look at it and you go, oh my. So I want to share that with you.
Thank you.
I think the other thing too, and I feel very really supported by the outpour of community support. We have some extraordinary opportunities to bring staff and community together. One of them, actually, we've gotten some input from prosecuting attorneys for the county who want to put in place teen court and work in partnership with Washington to implement a teen court that I think will be very helpful. We have an outpour of community partners who are willing to come in and work with students in mentoring, because you know as well that not all of our kids have the supports that they need. And I know you care deeply about the kids for that, and recognize that they will come in and work one-on-one with kids. What we're trying to do is actually bring folks together around these issues in the very near future. I think we had 46, 47 different opportunities. We have the Neighborhood Association that is stepping up, really bringing these folks in, and to be perfectly honest, just trying to get a handle around all of the needs. One of the things I don't want to do is invite partners into the Washington staff and they go, we don't want, you know what I mean? So it's real important to know what the Washington staff wants as well and what they think will be helpful before we bring a lot of folks in. But there are some real specific partners that I think will be extremely helpful to mentor kids, to support kids, to help with behavior problems that are, mental health pieces as well. I think sometimes there's something that we teachers deal with. The burden put on teachers and the recognition that schools can't do it alone. The kids who come to you each and every day and come to our classes, bring with them some really difficult circumstance out of their home environments. Certainly not all, as you all know, but some. And so collectively, we need to work together on this. So I just want to share that with you. So.
When are you going to be meeting with the teachers?
I think that's something Mr. Magnuson, I don't know where Mr. Ho is, but that's soon. They were gonna, within the next couple weeks.
And my teacher friends tell me that they haven't heard from you about that.
I can't respond
So,
to that.
Dennis,
Come
come on up,
up,
Dennis.
please.
So we did have a meeting on the last day of school where there was work done around that. We've also had the administrative team go off. They were working on some additional training, looking at the systemic issues and addressing them. But Mr. Christensen and the team as a whole are putting together plans for teacher meetings so that we can continue to address things from a systemic fashion, including some things that were beginning to be developed towards the end of the school year as well.
Yeah, some of the pieces that conversations with teachers were invited to participate in and that came up at the last meetings was how do we support subs in the building? How do we better support new teachers when they're in the building at Washington Middle School? And how do we continue to build that staff-to-staff relationship pieces? So staff were invited in and did participate in some initial planning stages for some of those pieces that were brought up near the end of the year. So that part has begun. There's more work to do, but those are examples of some of the facilitations that have begun regarding the end of the year pieces.
An example of one of the greatest needs that was brought up by staff was the need for additional substitute support. Because quite often teachers were feeling exhausted because if there was sub failure and there weren't subs for classes, there wasn't coverage and people were being asked to give up their preparation time to assist with covering classes. So we're actually hiring 3 full-time staff members to work, as Mr. Ho said, to provide that support so that we're not asking people on a regular basis to give up their preparation time. That was the top need that was addressed by staff at the end of the year, and that's one of the things that we've addressed. We've also, one of the other requests was that we have additional administrative support. We're adding an additional associate principal to assist with behavior and an additional counselor to address some of the issues there. But there's more that we need to do, and we recognize that.
If I may, Dennis, all the things that you said are things that already have been done. The question is, when are you going to do something in the future? Dr. Langenfeld, you said the things that we've been working on, they haven't been working. It's not enough. So my question is, when in the future, not what has already been done.
And just to clarify, we're working on the information that came from the listening sessions, and we are beginning to put those into place, and they will happen now and ongoing.
I want to make a comment, and since this is on the agenda, I don't think I'm violating any open meeting considerations here. First of all, Kirsten, you did contact me on May 7th, or May 6th actually, and thank you for that. A lot of water over the dam at this point with that, but I think that contact is going to result in some, I know it's going to result in some needed changes and some good things to happen. Again, thank you for doing that. The other thing is, Dr. Langenfeld made a comment that I just want to echo and maybe use it as kind of a call to action for my fellow board members here. Dr. Langenfeld said that one of the painful lessons that we learned in this is that we have a greater need to understand the culture and the climate in our schools. And while I don't speak for anyone but myself, I'm going to say that I think there's a role for us as board members, because ultimately it's the board's responsibility, not administration's responsibility, to make sure that things are happening the way they're supposed to be happening. And I would hope that the others would join me in paying very, very close attention to that comment about the need to better understand the culture and climate in each of our schools, certainly by visiting and talking to the people who are doing the heavy lifting in the schools. And I can offer you that commitment from myself, and to let you know that that's something that I'm going to encourage with my colleagues here as well. Too little, too late, perhaps, but it's something for the future, and I think it is something that we need to do, absolutely.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Kirsten, for bringing forward your concerns. Next, we have Christopher Sampson.
Christopher Sampson, 2509 Pickard Circle. I am a Washington parent, and I felt motivated to be here because when I saw the video and saw the coverage, I was very angry, disappointed, and I felt as though the board and the district had let me down as a parent. And more important, you know, my feelings aren't important, but all the good students and good teachers at Washington. And I will confess, I have not been a micro-involved parent, a super-involved parent. My kid comes home and I say, "How did school go today?" And he says, "Good." And I say, "That's good." I go to every parent-teacher conference, however, and spend some time with the teachers. And we've had two different boys go through Washington and East, or the older one is quite a few years out now of East, and the younger one. Both different. One was really, school came easy for him, the other one not so much. But I've seen teachers that do a good job with both. I know they have a population that's challenging to reach, and there are issues maybe you don't see in the richest school district or richest schools in the state. But I've just met teachers who are incredibly dedicated, and they know my child, and they engage us. They're appreciative, and that comes up at the parent-teacher conference, that not every parent shows up for that, and I appreciate that. But when this came out, and I don't at all discount Miss Westcott's statement. I mean, she was very eloquent and no doubt accurate from her experience and brave. But when that gets described as the totality of the Washington experience, that's a problem for me. And I know it is. I went to two things this spring. One was Mr. Van Ness's music picnic at the conference center, and the other thing was the first time the graduation ceremony for 8th graders. And I saw a really diverse student body. They supported each other. Yeah, there were some high spirits, some kind of acting up, but not much. It was really impressive, and that's the impression. So all this focus on something that apparently has gotten out of hand, and you need to get discipline under control, takes away from really good students, dedicated students, many who come from tough backgrounds or not privileged backgrounds certainly, and are really making great strides, and teachers who do a great job every day. Yeah, I appreciate your apology, mainly to the teachers, but I thought you needed to hear from a parent, because when this first came out in the news, I'm getting calls from friends who maybe don't send their kids to a city school. They're out in a suburb or a parochial school, and what's going on there? And I had to tell them what I did. I shared the story about going to some of the events and how impressed I've been with the teachers, and that it's a good school and a good experience. And apparently they've got things are getting out of hand, and they've got to work on their discipline. So really I see two big jobs, and I don't envy you them. One is that the behavioral things and the discipline things, somehow we're allowed to get a little, it's just too disruptive now. And it's a shame when you lose a great golden apple teacher who just feels that she can't continue. But that we've got pledges from people that that's going to turn around. The other thing is you have to be the biggest ambassadors and cheerleaders for Washington, and not pie in the sky, whistling past the graveyard, trying to slap a smiley face on everything. But you really can't forget that some of the people let down over the course of what you're talking about here. Well, actually, the great majority of them are good kids, who try to do their best every day, and good teachers. And I wish you luck. But I was angry that kind of sat out there for a few days, and I felt like nobody was. And I respect that you kind of have to lawyer up and issue prepared statements. But you're talking to somebody who was very candid and spoke clearly about some very serious issues, and I thought the response was lacking, and it was disappointing to me. And with that, I would just challenge you, and it seems like you're really in a position to tackle this and be serious about it. And so I'm appreciative of what I've heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. You can ask some questions since it's on the agenda. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else tonight who would like to speak before the board? Seeing none, we will move on to our agenda. First is a teaching and learning work session, and that will be facilitated by Katie Maloney.
Thank you, Brenda. We have several discussion items. The first one will be the Title VI Indian Education Parent Advisory Committee bylaws.
Yes, I'd like to invite Rita Shaw, our equity coordinator, to join us at the table.
Here she is.
Good evening.
Hi, Rita.
Hi, my name is Rita Shaw, and I'm the District Equity Coordinator. With my role, I oversee AVID, which is in 6 of our secondary schools. I also oversee our family engagement coordinators, our community partner programs called Visions for Success, which is through NWTC, as well as the YES program with the Oneida Nation. In addition, I oversee the Title VI Indian Education Program, which is why I'm here today. Our Title VI program, which has a team of 7 district employees, serves our Native American families and students. Our program objectives are to increase cultural identity and awareness, increase parent engagement, and to increase academic success. The funding for our program comes from a federal grant through the Office of Indian Education, which has some requirements to the grant. 2 of those requirements are to maintain a parent advisory committee and to have bylaws in which to carry out the committee. This most recent school year, the Office of Indian Education advised us to run through our bylaws with our Parent Advisory Committee to see if there were any revisions or updates that they were recommended as needed. There were a few small changes, and that is why I'm here today, to ask for your approval to those changes. Here are the specific changes. I'll just kind of briefly run through. I believe you have a copy of them. The biggest one that you'll notice throughout the entire bylaws is right in the very first line, Title VI. Because of federal grant requirements, that we used to be called Title VII Indian Education, we are now Title VI. So throughout the whole document, we had to go through and change it from Title VII to Title VI. So you'll notice that. Also in the name of the organization, our Parent Advisory Committee wanted to add Indian Education to the Parent Advisory Committee name, just to be consistent with the grant. Then if you go to Article 3, on committee structure, our Parent Advisory Committee wanted to add middle and high school behind the word secondary, just to clarify for our parents what the secondary meant. They also added a component that they wanted to provide an orientation to the new members to the Parent Advisory Committee so that we could go over roles and responsibilities to that committee. So we added that as well. And then under Article 5, our regular meetings for our Parent Advisory Committee used to be quarterly, and the Advisory Committee has advised that they would like to meet monthly, so we have now changed that to monthly. And as well as added provide notices by email to our committee members and to attach supporting documents. And so we've added those 2 pieces as well. We also changed in Section 2 under Article 5, we added that we wanted to provide meeting notices in all forms of media because in the past we were only doing it by letter and mailing it to everybody, and so they thought to kind of update that, we would do it in all forms of media. So we changed that, and that was the last change that we added. So there was not a lot, it was just some small changes that our committee wanted. So that's all that we have for you. So I appreciate the time, and I also wanted to let you know that our Parent Advisory Committee looks forward to an opportunity, hopefully in the future, to be able to present more about our programs and the things that we're doing within it. So hopefully I'll be able to see you again down the road. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Yes, I may. Be frank when I speak for myself. I feel you're an area that does quite a bit that we just don't seem to pay attention as a board member. And I remember a couple of your predecessors, Brian Stevens and Adam Webster, who are both no longer with us from years ago. But I appreciate the work you do in that area to help our Native American youngsters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a follow-up, Rita, do you, as you've had your meetings and whatnot, do you talk about student achievement and look at data or any of your, with your parent advisory?
We are. We share some data with them in regards to the schools and the progress of our students. This year, our Parent Advisory Committee has actually asked to do a summer retreat where we would focus specifically on data. And so we are working in partnership with Vicki, who's going to come in and help provide some data for them to give them an idea of where we're at and our focus areas for this upcoming year.
Excellent.
That's great.
Good to know. Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing done, we'll move that forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next, the Advanced Placement Human Geography Resources.
And I'd like to call Executive Director Michael Fries to the table, Secondary Executive Director. He may have a couple of people coming with him as well for the various next few agenda items.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mike.
And I guess, Dr. Wigner, I appreciate the comment you just made. The Teaching and Learning Department has the opportunity to work pretty closely with Reva's team in the evaluation of curriculum materials and talking about how we best analyze materials and doing some analysis at the elementary level in terms of the kind of an equity audit of our book rooms and such. So yeah, we absolutely very valuable resource, and we're very lucky to have Reva and her team in our district. So this evening, I'm here to speak, though, about textbook resource requests associated with some of our secondary curriculum areas. The requests that we bring forward this evening come from multiple content areas at the secondary level, as the separate board memos indicate, and they are hopefully a reflection of our inclusive and comprehensive curriculum process. For each subject area that we bring forward this evening, instructional staff worked very closely with representatives from teaching and learning to evaluate viable options to support previously approved course essential documents that outline the learning expectations for our students. Each area tonight does have a slightly different, interesting story behind it. I'll have team members join me individually accordingly to answer any questions that you may have for their respective areas. As I've mentioned before, I'd like to reiterate again that I really appreciate the work of our classroom instructors who teach these courses and have helped recommend and evaluate resource options that we bring forward tonight. I also very much appreciate the efforts of both our legal counsel and technology departments as they make sure that any recommendations that we consider fall within our system expectations, protect our student data, and legally protect us. Finally, I just want to mention also that I appreciate our relationship with our community advisory boards, and especially Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, NWTC, as part of our Turbocharge initiative for their input and their support of the courses that these resource requests are in many cases connected to. So first up tonight, please welcome Beth Taylor, Curriculum Coordinator, who will join me to offer brief remarks and answer any questions that you may have about our Advanced Placement Human Geography course requests.
Good evening. The Teaching and Learning Department continues to move forward with the renewal of social studies curriculum and materials. College Board revised the course description for Advanced Placement AP Human Geography, and we opened the enrollment to AP Human Geography to our freshmen this year. Therefore, this spring, the teachers who instruct the AP Human Geography course met to select new materials to support the additional enrollment and requirements. We used the resource selection rubric and we reviewed all materials. The teacher team selected the Wiley textbook, Human Geography, People, Places, and Culture by Faubourg. This is an updated edition of the current textbook. This textbook is well regarded by the College Board and has been well received by our students in the past years. The Teaching and Learning Department supports the Curriculum Committee's recommendation to continue utilizing Human Geography, People, Places, and Culture, and we are recommending the 11th edition for the 2017-18 school year.
Questions?
We'll entertain any questions.
Ed?
What's the projected enrollment for, do you know as far as course requests for upcoming school year?
Yeah, we're at approximately 300. From last year we had 300, and now going ahead here, we're just under 300, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a big increase for us by making it more accessible to freshmen.
How many of those are freshmen?
The vast majority. I can get that specific answer
Okay.
for you.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Chris?
Thank you. Technical question for our viewing audience. Would you explain human?
Thinking of these people moving
Mountains of
home.
people.
25 words or less.
25 words or less. You're talking to a former social studies teacher, right?
He's already used 10.
That's right. I keep
He
going.
already knows the
Well,
answer.
I don't want to give inaccurate information, but human geography would get into more than just political geography, more than just land masses or environmental aspects. They'll talk about aspects of culture, race, language, migration, some historical aspects. Really bringing forward 5 themes of geography and expanding it in a way at the advanced placement or collegiate level so that students can pick up on themes and essential questions that they can apply to critically think and analyze the world that we live in. It doesn't necessarily mean that you memorize all 50 states as part of the capitals or the geographic location, although having an understanding of where things are located is a part of it. But it's much more about the human experience relative to our fellow humans.
I can give you 25 words or less. It's about why people live where they live. It's really a cool
Thank
course.
you, yes. And the increase in enrollment, anecdotally, and I can pull this for complete accuracy, but we had some questions about what would this look like for freshmen to access an advanced placement course, but out of, I think, our 305 students first semester, only 2 were not cutting the mustard at the semester break. I haven't reviewed second semester results, but 303 out of 305 is pretty darn good. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's great. It's be a really good course.
Andrew?
So 140 print and e-text bundle, and then 160 just e-text bundle. So how does that work? And with also 140 AP study guides, how does that meet the needs when we have 300 in the class?
Yep, good question. And we struggle with how to articulate that properly in the form, so thank you for asking for the opportunity to clarify. In working with Diane and her team relative to technology device access, the decision that we made forward in this particular request is that all students would have access to an electronic version because it's our understanding that all the students enrolled in the course will have access to a mobile device so they can access the text no matter where they are, whether it be home or in the classroom. But we also wanted to make sure that we had hard copy, a class set hard copy for each of the 4 high schools with about 5 extra just in case. So I think if you do the math, 140 divided by 35 would give you, 35 hardcover texts at each class. And the teachers recommended a class set of the AP study guides. This particular textbook is a college level textbook, and the study guide is a complement, a supplement that emphasizes the areas of emphasis on the College Board AP exam. And so they felt that having access to the class set was what they needed. They did not request a student-by-student copy because that's not how it's utilized in their instruction.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, we'll move that forward. Thank you, Mike and Beth.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have the high school business education resources.
And again, we'll continue with Executive Director Mike, please.
And joining me at the table is our current technical education coordinator, Ms. Lisa Johnson. She'll be here for the next 3 items to discuss, sharing some additional details related to our high school business education curriculum resources, City Stadium Automotive located at East High School, as well as our construction pathway.
So first we have the business ed curriculum. Earlier this year we brought forward new courses to the board, and now we are bringing forth the resources. The team has continued to work through that in selecting the resources. The courses align to the NWTC concurrent enrollment program. They have adopted the NWTC textbooks per our agreement. So we're requesting that the board approve the resources totaling $76,985.
Questions, comments?
And, sorry.
Go ahead.
All the CEP, all but one are CEP courses on this list. And so it's the CEP courses that have the NWTC adopted
Correct.
textbooks.
We align it so that it's the same.
Right, and our digital media resource is our own internal class.
Our internal class, so our teachers went through a process to select those resources.
That, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move that forward. The City Stadium Automotive Early College Program Resources.
Yeah, over the last few years, the demand for our vehicle service courses has continuously been very strong. But students in that program, as we continue to look at continuous improvement, currently only earn up to 2 college credits through the automotive program. So starting in 2017-18 school year, we will begin partnering with NWTC to provide a collaborative learning opportunity to allow our students to increase their credit-bearing opportunities that will culminate in a full college credit credential while still in high school. So with that partnership, we are requesting that the board approve the resources that would go along with this program at a total of a little over $15,000.
Questions? Brenda?
So how many, with the certification, how many credits do they earn?
Students will earn 24 college credits, and they'll actually earn a diploma from NWTC.
And how many courses are that, do they take at the high school level then?
It will, that's a good
It
question.
must be more than these 3 that we're approving resources for?
Yes, they utilize the same book in multiple of their courses. So they break their courses down. We'll actually be piloting a new program that won't be available on their campus for another year. That the courses that are actually broken down into 1 and 2 credit courses. So it's a lot of little courses that they take that will equal up for a whole year for 2 years of a program.
So it will take our high school students 2 years to get those 24 credits.
Correct.
And
Yep.
is that, and it's college credits, not high school credits?
Correct. They earn
Okay.
college credits, and then they also earn high school credits because they're approved courses
Right,
through us.
So will they just get one, they'll get, I'm just trying to figure out how many classes they're taking, and does this
Yeah,
sort
I
of
can
take
look at it.
over
I
their
think
whole elective?
I want to say it's 12 classes, but I'll
So they
double
do
check
6 and 6.
It's 12 classes, but are they semester-long classes, or are they?
So what will happen is, like, the first course might be 3 weeks. They'll teach it 5 days a week for 3 weeks, and that's 1 credit. And then they'll move on to the next course. Same time period, but it just doesn't follow our typical leeway. So for instance, week 1 through 3 will be transportation service operations, which is a 1 credit course. Weeks 4 through 6 will be auto service operations, which again is a 1 credit course. Weeks 7 through 9 will be intro to electrical systems. So it'll continue on for everything, but it'll equal up to a whole year. So they've kind of broken it up, and it equals into our year.
So how many
periods are they
How many
using?
elective periods
Good question.
are they in?
They
That's
will
the
be in
way to
there
answer
2
this
hours
question.
a day for
Okay.
this first year. And then the following year, we're still working on them. For the second year of that phase, they would like to do more of a block, because once you get in working on an automotive, on a car that you put up on the wheels, it takes a lot of time to put it up on the jacks and then, to get it down. So we're still working on some of that. But for right now, for next year, it'll be a 2-hour block.
Thank you.
Julie? Okay.
At the end of, when they finally have the credits and you're working with NWTC, then the students are able to have advanced classes at TC once they graduate from high school. This flows into whatever's offered at TC, am I
Yep, so
understanding that
what
correctly?
it'll actually end up is students will actually earn their high school diploma and a college diploma at the exact same time at the end of their degree. So truly a true early college program. So we talk about turbocharge. This will be kind of our first real go at it with a true early college program where they're earning simultaneously 2 degrees at once.
And this technical college certificate or diploma, it's not a certificate, it's a diploma.
Yep.
Would then allow them to continue enrollment at an additional next step type program, such as maybe diesel mechanic or something like that, that normally they would have had to put in 2 additional years, et cetera. So this, as Lisa said, is more of that early college model as opposed to simply accumulating 3 credits in this area, 2 credits in that area. It's up.
Then what is this, the 24 credit certificate, what is it, what's the title of it? What is it?
Automotive maintenance technician.
Thank you.
And what's our capacity? How many students can participate?
Great question. So for our next school year, we'll have 30 students enrolled in that. So we'll be offering 2 2-hour block sections. And then continuing to move forward, we'll be looking at what does that model look like based upon our capacity at City Stadium and partnering with NWTC and their campus usage. As you know, they're in the process of building a brand new automotive building. And what does that look like to make sure we can support the number of students that we have wanting to be in this program.
And will we be in a position then to offer like the first year every year?
Yeah, so we
so that
yep.
we don't
so we'll
have
still
to wait for the 2-year cycle.
Right. So we'll still offer the intro to the engine repair. I mean, they're kind of an intro course. And then we also will still offer Vehicle Service 1 for like freshmen and sophomores. And then this will be more for those juniors and seniors as that next step for the program.
So they're earning a 2-year diploma essentially in high school. Yeah, it's their, because they have 1-year certificates and a 2-year diploma. Is that right? Associate's degree? Or?
It won't be a full associate's degree.
Oh,
It'll be they call it a diploma, which is more kind of in between a certificate and
it's a 24 credit diploma rather than an actual associate degree.
Right. So, but it really, those credits go on to the full associate, so they won't lose anything. They can continue right on
and finish. Okay.
And finish.
Now I think was your question.
Oh, yeah. I have one more.
Sure.
At the end, with this diploma, do you have any data, and you don't have to tell us tonight if you don't, but do you have data that shows how many of the students are able to find employment after they graduate from high school? How that flows out into the community?
Yeah, I can get that from NWTC. I know that NWTC doesn't offer a program unless they're confident that they can get pretty high percentage rates of kids getting employment when they are done with it, but I can get those specifics to you.
It's pretty impressive when you go to the open houses that they have on occasion and the dealership people are there. They are passing their cards out like crazy to all the students.
I was going to offer that that's part of the data sharing process that we're embarking on with NWTC and UB Green Bay for Turbocharge so that we can have a greater ease of access of that data. There is some publicly available data on WiseDash that does talk about what students are doing after high school, but it's very general. It's not as drilled down specific as we'd like to see to answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
Laura.
Can you talk a little bit about how this, a program like this works with the other requirements for high school? I mean, are there difficulties, tensions for your typical high school student?
Excellent question. I would say it depends. And there are a number of factors that impact how difficult it is to access this programmatic offering. At least articulated, this will be offered in 2-hour blocks, which means it'll be at some 2-hour chunk during the day. If you are passing your classes, freshman, sophomore, junior year, you don't have to, there's less stress associated with finding open spots to schedule because you have more availability. If you have some credit recovery challenges, then that can impact your scheduling. Secondly, if you have a number of singletons in a building that can make scheduling difficult. So the student services, the principal, the master scheduler are working together to come up with a schedule that doesn't constrict or restrict kids. Good academic and career planning within the student services department to say, when am I taking personal financial management? How am I squaring away my health credit, my physical education credit? Those pieces are all very important. The additional piece that's interesting about this program is we're talking about what would it look like to integrate the programmatic specific math courses, college prep courses, and then you could look down the road and say language arts courses as well. So when you look at our language arts curriculum offerings, you'll see that senior year electives have dual credit capability. And so as long as we don't develop courses that create conflicts, and rather we ask for your approval of courses that help resolve conflicts, we should be in good shape. So I think going back to Katie's question, I believe, it's going to be a fluid situation these next couple of years. How many sections do you allow of vehicle service one so that you don't build a master schedule that pinches things off? So it's a great, I'm excited about this question, you can tell. But yeah, so it's part of the navigation of it. And that's why the careful consideration that Lori Peacock and her team go through when they're talking about planning forward things, they have these multi-step process, so they don't want to build something that can't run. I mean, that is not something that we want to do, for sure.
I think there are two other factors that we work on that affect that. And one would be thinking of our high school, our high schools as more of a citywide campus as opposed to this being something at East. And what are we allowing to, as far as transportation options and things of that nature that allow it to be more fluid and accessible to students. And then also thinking about some of the comments that Mr. Becker made around flexibility of scheduling and some things we brought forward from the Secondary Capacity Task Force, looking at the school day as being a bit more of a fluid piece, looking at summer school offerings and how can we be creative there, looking at 0-hour and 8th-hour offerings so people might have greater access to a 2-hour block and still be able to finish their courses, because we want to make sure that it's widely accessible. When we think about this as not only are students getting jobs from this program, but really this is a career-ready opportunity for folks to have an opportunity to make a very livable wage after they're finished. So we want to make it as accessible to everyone as possible, and it's an opportunity for us to be flexible in the way that we offer courses.
Chris.
Thank you. If I heard you right from previous comments, the room at East is only so big. I mean, we've got so much room, and I would anticipate the demand to continue to grow. With NWTC expanding, I would like to think there's potential that some of our classes for that end of town could be held out there, as opposed to having to come over to East High School. So,
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move.
I would just offer one additional comment. That is, this particular request has also been a little bit fluid because of as NWTC is scaling up. There's a slim chance that you'll see some slight modifications of the numbers based on the text. We've been in dialogue these last couple of days to confirm, like, is this the one you really want? Are you sure? We're fairly confident, but it would not be a request for more. It would possibly be a little bit cheaper. They're just determining what exactly they want to require for sure on that. But as of today, this is accurate, so we'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move that forward. Construction pathway resources.
So as part of our ongoing efforts to ensure that our curricular revisions are aligned with our industry certifications and our pathway desired outcomes, we're also bringing forward a proposal for new high school construction pathway textbooks that are aligned to the National Center for Construction Education and Resources industry certification. These books will allow for our students to complete our Bridges Construction and Renovation program to earn industry certification, which is called the core curriculum, which is the foundation for any construction-related field. We are requesting that the board approve these resources at a total of a little over $14,000.
Questions or comments? How many students do we have involved in this program?
It's a series of courses. In the capstone program, we have about 15 students in the capstone that would be earning this certification program. We have a lot more kids in our intro courses, but not as many kids in our capstone at this point.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Go ahead. Just a comment, having been in seeing firsthand all the students who are involved, it is so worthwhile to the pride that they feel, the workmanship that they present is pretty extraordinary. So I want to make sure that our community and board members have an opportunity, if you ever, as they finish and be part of successful projects, that we make sure we get the word out. It's well worth the trip.
It is. I've been to several
well
there.
worth the trip.
Open
So,
houses.
I hope community, I know we put out those press releases, but I hope that our community goes and sees what young people can do and what a bright future they'll have in this area. as home builders and.
Did our students work on the properties on the corner of Walnut?
Oh, the humanities.
And they're the habitat?
Yep, our egg science teacher actually worked there. They did the landscaping
I was
for
going to
that
say,
program.
the East
for those
FFA
courses.
did the landscaping.
Yeah,
there.
they did landscaping. We didn't build those houses, but we
Okay,
did the
that's nice.
landscaping, so that involved our egg science program within that program.
But they were on the house, the Craftsman House on Broadway.
The Craftsman House on Broadway, they were the main
neighborhoods.
builders of that program. They had some
Right.
subcontractors come in to do a few parts of course, electrical, those types of things, but the kids basically built that house from the ground up. So the first time that we built a house from the ground up, and they were very proud of that, and that ability, and they are working, we will have another house for this coming school year that they will build from the house on the ground up.
Julie?
Do they have access to internships then from these particular?
Yes, some of our partners do offer internships and some jobs for our students coming out of there. And then they also earn, they'll be earning 9 college credits next school year, so they'll also have a really good foundation to get into that construction program as well.
No pun intended.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move that forward.
Thank you, Lisa.
And lastly, we have the music theory and advanced placement music theory course resources.
Finally, Dr. Eric Kahn joins me to present information about both the music theory and AP music theory materials request.
Yep, the Board of Education approved the music theory curriculum in September of 2016. And in order to effectively implement that curriculum beginning this next school year, teachers investigated and evaluated potential resources. A team examined textbooks from the Advanced Placement Example textbook list, as well as each publisher's options for basic music theory. After the review, the teachers identified Norton's Musician's Guide to Fundamentals as the best option for music theory, and Norton's Musician's Guide to Theory and Analysis for AP music theory. These resources were selected because of the integration of ear training and sight singing with music theory content, having an engaging layout, and the readability for high school students, a diversity of music genres, including popular music, and a coverage of all the course content in both music theory and AP requirements. And so I'm happy to answer any questions about them.
Questions or comments? Brenda?
Is this only taught at East and Southwest?
No, Preble also teaches the class. West does not teach it because they have the IB music.
Oh, okay, all right. I just saw the 2 committee members on there, so thanks.
We extended the opportunity just for a scheduling conflict. Preble was unable to participate, but they communicated with colleagues and supported the recommendation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move that forward. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our portion of the work session.
All right, thank you, Katie. Next is organizational support work session, and I know there's not anything on it, but I'll turn it over to Andrew in case there's something that needs to be talked about.
Unless anyone has anything to the contrary, there's no items under either business and finance or human resources. Chris?
I don't ask what this Marshall, we had
Just talk hiring.
Are we coming with hiring for this following school year?
We're in the middle of it, and so I would bring an update to the board in August. But we have about 70 teacher positions, and we have now started to post our paraprofessionals and our supervisors, and interviews are going on for those. So we're doing quite well, I think. I think our greatest need is in special education this year. I think Julie Seefeld said that there's about 8 or 9 openings for bilingual, so I think we'll be able to fill those, but I'll give you a detailed report in the beginning of August.
Anything else? Okay, that would conclude the report.
All right, we do have a closed session. I'll read that motion. Closed session has been scheduled for Monday, July 10th, immediately following the adjournment of the work session meetings. Pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations, to wit, personnel matters. Pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, more specifically to wit, potential contracts, property. And pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, to wit, potential litigation matters. The meeting will begin in open session to consider the appropriate motion for a closed session so provided by law.
So moved.
Sandy?
Aye.
Dinch.
Aye.
Maloney.
Aye.
McCoy. Wagner.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye. Carried 7-0, and we'll go across the hall.